everyone, I'm Janine Malone.
And I'm Kristen Ciccolini.
You're listening to It's Just a Phase. Each week we'll bring you inspiring and informative conversations about honoring the different cycles of life, covering topics of health and wellness, moon phases, astrology, witchcraft, feminism, and more, so you can superpower your well-being and live your best life. Hi, Kristen.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you're listening to this podcast, welcome to episode 10.
We are here wherever you are. We're everywhere.
Whenever you are.
When? Yes. I love this.
Today, we are doing things a little differently, and we're going to be answering some of your questions that have come up over the last few weeks as we've gone over the different types of cycles. But first, of course, as always, or as of the last few episodes, we have the cosmic update.
Woohoo!
It's a quick one this week. Not much going on, but
Thank God.
But it can be a little intense. We have the waxing moon in Scorpio, and just before we started recording, Janine said all she was going to do was cry.
I mean, that's like pretty much my agenda all the time. But
gotta let it out.
Let her rip.
So, as you know, in this phase of the waxing moon, energy is building, and it's a good time for actually moving forward on your new moon intentions, and also for trying something new and fun. So, different experiences. Also, Scorpio moons can be a little intense, so just pay attention to the energy that's building and feel free to take some time out if you need it.
Yes, you deserve to rest. Give yourself a little break, or a cry break. Can we all do that? Should we just like set a date and time, and we all can just like cry together?
I will send a Google Calendar invite for a collective scream.
That actually seems more appropriate for 2020, but also Scorpio.
Yes. On the next full moon, we will all gather and howl like coyotes.
Honestly, sounds great. I am loving that. I'm curious, besides screaming into the night, is there anything new that you're going to try out this week?
Yeah. So this week, I mean, my intentions for the new moon were to go back to doing things on my schedule. So, in quarantine, with Dan being home, I wanted to spend as much time with him as I could. So I wanted to like stuff everything into a normal 9 to 5 schedule, which worked for a little while. But now that he's going back to work, it's like a different environment between when someone else is home and when you're home alone.
Yeah.
So this week, I mean, this is the week he went back to work. So now I'm trying to start my mornings a little bit later. So I've been going for runs and meditating in the morning before I start anything, especially because I knew this was going to be a big content creation week. So I'm still working on my program. And now I'm getting into actually writing a lot of stuff. And I knew I needed that like focus time. So I wanted to just get settled first, and getting all of that out of the way was a huge help. And I know yesterday, I think you posted something that was like about alignment time. And that was like the perfect way to describe that morning routine.
Yes. Yeah, that was from Maggie. She used to be what was it? God. I'm so sorry, Maggie, if you're listening. You're at Ms. Maggie B on Instagram, and that's apparently how I know everyone, because my brain is broken. I only know people by handles. But yeah, she posted about alignment time being kind of like the name for that like daily self-care time. And I just love that so much. Like it feels so much more special than like, it's just my morning routine. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that like I have a lot of content to create this week as well. So finding ways to support that, because it can be taxing, as everyone knows from listening to our creative cycle episodes, sometimes when you're in that like air and fire energy, you really need to make sure that there's like some space being held for your own sanity. So Yeah, so I have some of that work to do as well. I'm also like really feeling very motivated to like change some things around my house. We are we're in year I think 5 or 6 of living in our apartment, and I think if the stay-at-home order has taught us anything, it's like what about your house you love and what about your house you don't like. And I've just been feeling very like sensitive to the environment lately, and specifically around like the work that I do and like making my office feel like as professional and creative and special as I want it to. So I'm thinking of taking on that project. I've already started my little Pinterest board and like have some ideas of like how I want things rearranged. So this I think is going to be the week that I start making those changes, which again will feel really productive but also like really really supportive of like some of my bigger goals.
I've been trying to do my office for the last year, and I'm so picky about the things that I want. I just haven't done it.
It's really hard, and it's like I don't know, I've just started to get to the point of like the difference between like function like what am I tolerating, versus
Mm.
like what is ideal. And like I have been tolerating like an uncomfortable chair and like not being able to see all the like because I have like my big mood board thing, big cork board in the office, and I also have like a big dry erase calendar. And like where my desk is right now, I like can't see them. Like I have to fully turn around. So I'm just like, this is silly. Like this isn't working. So I'm excited to kind of get some time to do that and like make it feel really special because I'm going to be working out of this little room for quite some time.
Yeah, that's so important to have that space where you feel really productive and really, creatively stimulated, I guess, or and supported in that way. And
Yeah.
not having like all the clutter and having things where you want them to be. I know it probably sounds like picky and or maybe a little small, but I think it's huge. And
No, I think so too.
yeah, and for my office, this is just me picking a bone with Wayfair, but I've been wanting this teal couch for my office because sometimes I like to switch from sitting at the desk to sitting on the couch and just, go back and forth for comfort. And my office gets such beautiful sunlight and all I want to do in like the late afternoon is like sit and read on the couch in here. But I don't have one. The one I want, the one I've been stalking for the last year, it's been like it started at 439 and then it was on sale for like 489, which makes no sense.
Amazing sale.
Yeah, and then it went up to like 549 and I'm like, I've been watching this shit. They're fucking with me. I want this couch so bad and I can't get it.
Oh my God. It's so frustrating.
Maybe it's time to give it up.
I mean, I'm sure there's another teal couch.
I've been looking, man.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe I just need to do like a Pinterest board again and recalibrate.
I'm going to be stalking all of the furniture sites, so I'll send you, expect just a million links from me being like, is this? Is this it? Is this? I would love for you to have that as well. For us to have our own little dream offices.
I just wanted to put it
Because
out there that I know what they're doing.
yeah,
I've been
if
watching
you're
the prices,
listening,
okay?
Wayfair, we see you and we do not approve.
We do not
Okay?
appreciate it.
Um, but we've completed 10 episodes here, Kristen. This is our 10th. We're in double digits. We're in two hands worth of
I'm giving
episodes.
you I'm giving you a virtual high five through Zoom.
Oh, same. Major high five. We are so excited that we're in 10 episodes. I think that that officially means that it's real.
It's
And
finally real.
and we've been talking a lot about like do we want there to be seasons? We definitely want to take a little bit of a summer recording break because let's be real, until we have our dream offices and like really fancy microphones, we are currently recording in closets and they're hot as hell. So, not only that, but we also want to start really thinking about this, you know, amazing content that we want to create for fall when we're all in that kind of like back to school mentality. Um, I think that that energy is like always really exciting, and we have some really fun ideas for how to work with it and how to make this show even better. But we didn't want to leave you high and dry for the next month because that's not what friends do. So we came up with something that we think you're really gonna like. It's called It's Just a Phase Summer Camp.
Summer
Kristen, tell them
camp!
what they get.
So each week for the next 4 weeks, so we're going to take a month-long break, but we'll release mini episodes. And yes, they will include some quick cosmic updates so you know what to expect for the week. And we'll also give you some actionable mind, body, and soul practices for you to try to align to the current moon phase and for our summer season. So this is our way of helping you embody the information that you learned in the first 10 episodes or 9 episodes, I guess, and to start integrating cycles into your real life. Because yeah, listening to it over the last few weeks, you've probably taken all the information in. Have you started anything? I hope so, but if not, I know there were some questions about how to implement these things, one of which we will answer today. So we'll be kicking this off on Monday, August 3rd, which is going to be the full moon in Aquarius.
So exciting. So, yeah, we really just want to help you, give you some like little summer camp activities to work with the cycle, work with the summer. And then when we all regroup in our new little podcast school year, we'll have like the next level. We'll all level up together. So, before we sign off for summer camp, we want to answer a few of your questions about cycles and how to work with them. So, we've got a handful of juicy ones. Call back to summer masterclass episode. If you thought you were getting through this last episode of our season without hearing the word juicy another time, you were mistaken. But
Juicy.
But if you have, you know, any other questions or you want to submit something, because I'm sure we'll do an episode like this again, you can DM us on Instagram at It's Just a Phase Pod, or you can email us at It's Just a Phase Pod at gmail.com, and we will answer them in the future. But I'm really excited for this. Are you excited?
I'm excited. And I also want to say that, since it's summer camp, maybe we're not working with the cycles, we're playing with them. It's going to be
Ooh,
fun.
oh, I love that reframe.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope you guys are as excited as we are.
Ugh, I just like wish we had a summer camp and like it could just be there could be like yeah, free play and like the lake is like our little water energy and like arts and crafts. Yeah, we're just going to make it really really fun. And if we can't all be at a summer camp all together, we can just be in alignment with our little practices.
Socially distanced summer
Summer
camp.
camp. I love it. So yeah, so let's just get into the questions. So our first one is from Shauna, listener Shauna, who asks, I always want to work with cycles, but it feels like such a 24/7 thing, and I get overwhelmed. How do I keep up with each moon phase, day of the week, etc.? I feel like by the time I think about how to settle into one part of the cycle, it's already over. Am I just lazy? Where do I start?
So we totally get the overwhelm with this, but the way I look at it, you definitely don't have to try and follow every single cycle. Like you don't have to know exactly which phase the moon is in every day and which sign it's in and what that sign's corresponding element is and how that relates to the season. You don't have to know all of that stuff. So it's a lot of information to remember off the top of your head. So basically, whatever you felt resonated with you over the last few episodes, you can just keep and then forget about the rest for now. For now, forever, whatever you want to do. But if it all sounds good to you, which I hope it does, because we love all this stuff, I'm so glad. But I think it's best to just start small and start with the moon phases. Not that the moon is small, it's the most beautiful thing. But just start with one thing, don't overwhelm yourself. You can go back to episode 1 where we relate the phases to the seasons, just so you can start understanding the energy of each phase. So when you're planning out your calendar, it'll be a little less overwhelming and hopefully more helpful just to start there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're not lazy at all. I think that I agree with everything that Kristen said. And I really just like to start with the seasons, like even though they feel really, large and looming and we're in them for a while, I found that to be really helpful to start to like work with the energy and get to know it a little bit more intimately before moving into the next phase, because I totally agree with you. Like there's some times where you just don't check in and you're like, oh my God, there was like just a new moon and now I don't know what my intention is. And we're already halfway through like waxing moon. And it makes you feel like you like fucked up somehow. So I think that starting with the seasons and just looking at each quarter as an opportunity to sort of change up your self care or your personal practices. Remember, all four seasons are a complete cycle. So, if right now in the summertime you're really focused on creativity and your relationships and your personal community and family, that's amazing because then you'll move into fall and it's a little bit more about like being intuitive in your own personal self care and coming back to you. And like when you go through a whole calendar year, everything has been prioritized at one point or another. And that feels really, really good. So I like to start there. I also think that you can just like start with noticing the new and the full moons, like even remove waxing and waning and just set an intention monthly and check in with them about halfway through, which is at the full moon. So again, that's just kind of like to get into the flow of a cycle versus being stuck in perfectionism, being like, okay, this is the cycle I'm in for the next 3 days and if I don't optimize it, then everything's wrong. Like life happens and you can always catch the next one.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
was gonna
beauty.
say that. Just keep in mind that it's a cycle, it's never ending. It will always be there for you when you're ready to receive it.
Exactly. Exactly. So I hope that that's helpful. And again, summer camp will be perfect for finding small ways to get started, not necessarily having to reinvent the wheel. No pun intended. And then let's see. Allison asks, oh, Kristen, this is for you. This is a question for you. Um, is there a way I should be altering my food depending on where I am in my cycle? I have an IUD and don't bleed, so how do I go about it?
Yes, this is a big question.
I just feel like I felt you like crack your energetic muscles, or like your knuckles. You're like, let's get into it.
Yeah, so it is a big question and there is a bigger answer to it. So we'll do a deep dive episode on this in the future because I love talking about this stuff. But long story short, yes, you can change up what you're eating with each phase of your cycle. Should is a word I don't love to use. So whether you should or should not do it is totally up to you and what you feel is best for your body. I just like to educate and inform so you can make informed and intentional decisions. So
Yeah, don't should yourself.
yeah, don't should all over yourself. So we start our cycles with the follicular phase. So this starts the first day of your period. And in this phase, you'll want to eat veggies, lean protein, beans, seeds, and in light cooking preparations too, like steaming and sauteing. Also, probiotic rich foods. So ones that have that good bacteria for your gut health, also good for your phase because all the energy is building. You want to make sure that you're supporting all of your processes. And then in the ovulation phase, you'll want low carb, high fiber foods because you already have a lot of natural energy. So I wouldn't necessarily always tell someone like not to eat carbs, but you want just if you want to do this in support of your ovulation phase, lower carb is better because you already have a lot of natural energy. So you don't really need as many simple carbohydrates for that purpose. You don't want to get that like jittery feeling of having too many carbs in your system or spiking your blood sugar a little bit more. So the fiber too, along with liver supporting foods. Liver supporting foods would be foods like bitter foods, leafy greens, things like that. They help your body get rid of excess estrogen in this phase. And raw foods are also best tolerated during this phase too. You have that fire energy, so your digestion's really strong, so you can handle raw foods best right now or in that ovulation phase. I mentioned fiber, so this goes along with the blood sugar regulation, also eliminating the excess estrogen because in the bathroom we do eliminate excess hormones, so that's really important for that phase because estrogen is really increasing during ovulation. And then in the luteal phase, you want foods rich in B vitamins, calcium, magnesium, fiber again, and complex carbohydrates. So that's things like whole grains and starchy vegetables, roasted, baked, that can help support your digestion, help that along in that phase as things are sort of winding down as you get into your menstrual phase. You know, your energy is winding down, so is your digestive capability. And then the menstrual phase. So you really want nutrient dense things in the cycle to support what's going on. You want mineral rich foods because you're eliminating your blood, and hydrating foods as well, and healthy fats to support the system. So you can also cook things how you want, but heartier preparations might feel pretty comforting right now. So soups and stews and things like that. In terms of having an IUD and not bleeding, so the way you would go about it is to use the moon phases. So you can go back to the first episode where we talk about that. And I think in the first episode, we talk about the seasons, but we also talk about the corresponding menstrual phases. So whatever phase the moon is, that's where you would do these different foods. And like I said, I'll go into detail on this in a future episode, along with the practice of seed cycling. So that's another thing that you can do to eat for your cycle, to balance your hormones. This is if you're experiencing PCOS, endometriosis, estrogen dominance, any PMS symptoms. Seed cycling can be good for that. Basically, what that is you have 1 tablespoon each pumpkin seeds and flax seeds in the first 2 weeks of your cycle. You have that daily with your meals. And then a tablespoon each of sunflower seeds and sesame seeds in the next 2 weeks of your cycle. And then you alternate back and forth. So on a 28-day cycle, even if your cycle isn't 28 days, doing it on that 28-day rotation, or the 14-day rotation, I guess, can help regulate you or help balance your hormones. So definitely getting long-winded here. You can definitely tell this is another whole episode. So if you are dealing with a hormone health issue, I recently wrote a blog post all about seed cycling that I will put in the show notes if you want to learn more about that. Whew.
So funny. First of all, you're a genius. That was so much information. Second of all, it's so funny. I was just thinking that this morning. I was making a um, smoothie and I was like, oh my gosh, I remember Kristen just posted about seed cycling and I was going to put some seeds into my little smoothie. And I looked up your blog post and put in some flax seeds.
Oh, how lovely.
I know. Felt
I'm
great.
glad it helped. Yeah, in
Yes.
the blog post I also have some ideas on like how you can use the seeds if you're like, what do I do with flax seeds? What do I do with all of
What do I
this?
do? Do I just have to
What
like eat
is
a tablespoon of seeds dry? What am I, a
I
bird?
mean, you can. I'm not
Yeah.
judging. Yeah, but I love talking about this, so we'll talk about it soon.
Yes, definitely a deep dive episode in our future, I think.
Yeah, and I can explain why you're eating certain foods. I did explain a little bit there, but I can go into depth. But
Yeah.
yeah, next question is from Kate. How do you make a journal to reflect the moon stages? I'm curious how people make a moon cycle in their agenda.
Yes. Well, simple. All you need to do is have a go to resource to look up where the moon is. So, some of our favorite resources are the Many Moons Planner. There's the Moon Phase app, and there's also Time Passages, which is an app, and it's like a little bit more advanced for like the true astrology nerd in all of us. And you can also just go to certain websites like I like moongiant.com that just tells you like where the moon's at in its cycle. Um, Personally, like I journal almost daily. I like to say daily, but we all skip every once in a while. So, and at the top of each page, I just start with the date a tarot card that I've pulled, where the moon is, and where I am in my menstrual cycle. So personally, that just helps me stay on top of where things are and like incorporates checking in with the moon and checking in with my body into a daily practice, which I've found really useful. And B, it also is really helpful to track because in reflection, you can start to pick up on patterns and see how certain energies are showing up for you. So, in my opinion, that's one of the best things about incorporating moon cycles into a journaling practice is not only being able to plan for them, but really being able to understand them in retrospect. So, how you cycle with the moon um, alongside it. So, do certain times bring up certain emotions for you? Can you see any patterns? We've talked about this a handful of times, and obviously, Kristen and I have different experiences of different phases as well. And so, it's safe to assume that you would experience things differently. And I think that that's at least the best way to utilize it is to keep it a little bit more open ended and more like a a practice of just like that's integrated rather than necessarily having specific journaling questions or specific, activities or anything like that associated with each phase. I think the simpler the better in this case. Kristen and I actually have like a shared Google Calendar that just has all of the major like astrological events. So, like new moons, full moons, first quarter, last quarter, when we move to a new zodiac sign. And that's actually, I really love having it. I don't know how you feel about it, Kristen, but I love seeing that show up because it's integrated with all my other calendars. And it feels kind of good to be like, oh, cool. Like there's a new moon happening on the same day that I have this like, day set aside for a proposal I'm writing. And it's like, oh, that lined up nicely.
I love
Feels
it.
good.
I think it's really cool. And it does help me plan. And also, we include Mercury retrograde in there for
Correct.
when we really need to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that doing what you're saying, journaling every day, one, you can pick up certain patterns, but also you can kind of personalize your cycle or
Yeah,
personalize the moon
exactly.
cycle in that way. So maybe at the full moon, maybe, when everyone else has energy, maybe you need to rest, So it's really understanding. We give you sort of like the guidelines and like, or not guidelines, but where to start and what the typical energies of each phase are. So you can, try to embody them. If it doesn't work, then that that's not for you and that maybe you feel a certain way at this moon phase that's different from everyone else. And that's your own individual cycle. So journaling can really help you figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. That's like so I mean, that's the most valuable thing in my opinion is getting to understand like your own cycle. That's why I'm just a proponent in general of journaling is you can kind of see like oh, like I go through these like peaks and valleys throughout a month, or that could be like triggered by certain things, or I know after I have a big project, it takes me like 3 or 4 days to feel like back to normal. And then again, you can just start planning for your planning for your life in a way that's like very unique and very realistic rather than constantly being like, "Oh, why don't I have any energy?" Like
Mhm.
it's felt like a lot of freedom for me personally. So I hope that you get some freedom from incorporating moon phases and menstrual phases into your journal too.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people who love like coloring in your planner and like making it all pretty, take a picture and show us. I would love to see that.
Oh my god, please. Yeah, if you're like one of those people who does like that amazing like bullet journaling or
Yeah,
whatever, like oh my god,
I
I would
envy
die.
people like that.
Me too. I really find it soothing to search those hashtags on Instagram and just like zone out on people's really organized journals.
Mm, yeah.
That's a self-soothing practice. So next we have a question from Ashley. This question made me laugh so hard in like the best way. Real talk, how much are you two checking in with cycles and which ones?
I loved this one too. Because it made me think about it. I was like, do I? But I
Do I
mean,
even do it?
yeah. But I mean, all of them. But the thing I know that I check in most with is the moon. So we mentioned the many moons planner. We both have that, and it just shows us the phase every single day. So it's really easy to see what's happening when at a glance and just to be able to plan accordingly when I can. So that's a really simple thing to do. So it's like not hard to incorporate that. Also, I mentioned I was on hormonal birth control. So while I knew my technical phases, I actually stopped that this week. So now I get to
Congrats.
pay thanks. Now I get to pay even more attention to these phases, which is like so exciting to me.
Oh my God, welcome
Super
back.
nerdy. So I mean I always paid attention to them, but now it's like, oh, now the real stuff's coming. So also the
Right.
creative cycle, as a business owner and someone who creates a shit ton of content, it is so important to me to honor each phase there. So I guess the one I pay attention to the least is probably the zodiac. I feel like that doesn't really have an effect on me, that I necessarily pay attention to. I mean, I follow my astrologer very closely and fully plan around everything that she says because she's so spot on and I love her, but I don't do the work myself because it's just, you have to work in your area of brilliance and I just don't have the patience. So I prefer to let someone else do that. And also, like, I just put my energy and attention to my clients' periods instead.
Like, I want to know about your phase, my phase, their phase. I love that. Yeah, I would say, like, honestly, I'm very in touch with my menstrual cycle. As I've mentioned on a handful of episodes, I deal with like an autoimmune issue, and it's also taught me a lot about my energy levels. And when I have the mental capacity, like what I have the mental capacity for. So, like, that has been revolutionary for me, and I just can't imagine not paying attention to it now. Um, Again, I write it in my journal every day. I have the Flow app, so it's pretty straightforward. I'm pretty in tune, and it doesn't really take any extra energy. It also is really helpful to like help me plan what to eat and how to exercise. Like, even though it took some upfront learning, it's actually like eliminated some of those like decisions that like I don't need to be making. I don't need to use my brain anymore. I'm just like, oh, okay, like this week I should be eating these kinds of foods and I should be doing this kind of exercise. So I don't have to spend time being like, do I want to go for a run or do I want to do yoga? Like, I just follow what my menstrual cycle like wants me to do. I also definitely use the lunar and seasonal cycles. Like, I would say that I tend to use them in terms of like planning goals and setting intentions. I would definitely be lying if I said I had any like in-depth non-negotiable rituals that I do. Um, I try to give myself like a little bit of time, even just like once a week, to do some of that more spiritual practice, but I I find that like incorporating it into my real life, which is about running a business and having really special relationships and friendships, and being creative, is much more spiritual to me than like doing much else. Besides occasionally creating like an altar. That's my vibe. So yeah, I think really I just use cycles to better understand and like have compassion towards myself. And in that way they've become like, I just can't imagine not using them. Like, it doesn't make anything more complicated. So I understand the question though. It's like I remember when I was first getting into all of this, and I feel like this is kind of like an underlying um, tone of some of these questions is like, do I have to do all of it? And I'm like, there's like a little bit of legwork, sure, but like once you start doing it, it's so helpful that you're just like, I just can't imagine not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I get the question too because it's like it's overwhelming, especially if you've never thought about this stuff before.
Totally.
But once you get the hang of it, it's like you will be so happy.
And it really, I mean, it's super natural too. Like, it's such a natural rhythm and flow that, like, once you understand the basics, it's like, oh, totally. This makes complete sense. I just have to, like, move things around a little bit and I'm there, So that feels really good.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to take this question, which is one I get pretty much every time I teach or talk about cycles at all. So this is no one in particular, but I wanted to include it and hear your opinion, Kristen. I always get the question like, what if my period doesn't match up with the moon? Or what if I'm in the creative cycle and that doesn't match up with my period? Like, what if I'm living under two cycles and I'm in different phases that aren't aligned? What do you say to that?
I say that's a great question. And that was definitely like one of my first questions when I first started learning about these different things. I'm like, but it doesn't make sense and it doesn't match up. I don't
Right.
get it. So I don't think it has to. I think it's just more fun and a lot easier if it does. It's more about the energy that you want to embody. So, kind of like what we were saying about where to start, you don't have to do all of this at once or have everything in sync. It's just a matter of thinking about the energy of that phase and what you can do to honor it. So, it can be like different aspects of life. So, if it's a full moon and you're in the rest phase of the creative cycle, so maybe you just like finish a huge project, you can look at that separately if you want to, or you can integrate them if you want to. So maybe you only pay attention to that rest for the time being, or you can rest on the productivity front. So maybe you're not creating anything anytime soon, but it's a full moon. So maybe you embrace the social aspect of the moon. So it's really anything you want to do. The best part about all of this is that it's really adaptable and it's completely up to you.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think that like it's meant to be empowering. It's not supposed to be like a really um compact system that you're like living under. It's really actually supposed to like help you flourish. So if it doesn't feel like that, I just want to invite you to like take a step back and kind of interrogate that before trying to move forward. Like why does this feel limiting?
Yeah,
Because
like
it
what's
doesn't
the
have to.
resistance for it?
Yes. Um, I agree. I've totally been there. It's still kind of a hard one for me. Um, Particularly, and I've said this before, like if I've been planning something based on my menstrual cycle and then my period's late and I'm like, okay, well, there goes like this really nice plan I had.
I guess I'll
But
have to wait 2 more weeks to rest.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm so tired. Like, so, when I started working with cycles, I was fucking pissed that they didn't match up perfectly. Like, because the patriarchy wants us to think that if things aren't perfect, then they aren't worth doing. But
Mhm.
luckily, we all know better than that.
We need to like
Um,
ring a bell when we start talking about the patriarchy.
yeah,
It
just like
sounds
gird your loins. Um, but like truly, like that is a symptom of, having consumed a lot of patriarchal beliefs is that like if things aren't completely perfectly aligned, then it's not time to start. And that actually just keeps us from progressing. Um, so keep in mind, to Kristen's point, like you can choose which ones you need. You can ask yourself, like, what do I need most right now? And I really like to think that these, like, the energies all play really well together, right? They're a holistic system. It doesn't, they don't repel each other. They actually are meant to be combined in certain areas. So I kind of come back to thinking about it like the moon phase is about my emotional well being, my menstrual phase is about my physical well being, and seasonal I look at as like creative and self care. So, for example, if I'm ovulating, but the moon is waning, I might spend the day cleaning out my closet because I know I'll have the physical energy to get it done. And the waning moon is a really good time to like cut cords with things that I don't need anymore. So I don't know. I guess I personally take it as like an opportunity to find opportunities, and like utilize that special combination, rather than feeling like I have to, you know, it always has to look perfect. And, in that same sense, I also think that like recognize that sometimes we just like have to do things that we don't want to do, unfortunately. Sometimes you have to have emotional and like intense conversations during a phase where you're like not prepared to do that. But like life happens. And again, like we can't just be waiting around for perfect conditions. But I think that if you just take a step back and ask yourself what you need, or ask yourself like what the unique gift of that combination of phases is, you'll be surprised at how quickly something comes to mind.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a little puzzle, you know?
Totally.
Not to like make it seem difficult, but the more you do it, the more when you're working with these phases that seem out of alignment, and like you said, you're looking for opportunities, the more you come up with, the more you do this, the more combinations you have. And especially if you're journaling, like you'll have a log of these things, like the more or the easier it'll be to actually do this because you'll already have ideas of what you've done before in these different alignments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm a huge fan of like when I don't understand how two things can be happening at the same time. I'm a big fan of making a Venn diagram. And I know that's like super nerdy, but like to be like, okay, what does it mean to have a lot of physical energy, but not a lot of mental energy? Like, what can I get done?
Hmm.
Is like a problem that is solvable. And
Yeah.
you are smart, anyone who is listening to this and asking this question. And I think that you can find solutions. And again, then it's like you have them for next time.
That was a great answer. And now I
Thanks.
have another great question.
Great.
It is from your friend Jeannie. What
Jeannie.
what advice do you have for someone looking to switch industries?
I love this question. I love this woman. So, my advice is to take small steps. One of the best things about cycles is that it's all about like slow and steady and thoughtful progress. So, you're at the beginning of this transformation, and it's the perfect time to start by setting an intention, doubling down on your self care, asking yourself what you really want and what you're looking to create. That's kind of that first new moon earth energy. And then again, move into your air phase. So, starting to have conversations with people in your new industry, making your step by step plan, getting clear on like deadlines and your own expectations, creating the container, if you will, that this transformation will be happening in, or this switch will be happening in. And then, only after all that is said and done that you have to worry about like the full moon fire energy of actually changing, which is when you're applying and interviewing and putting yourself out there. So it will feel so much better to do that scary stuff after you honor the first half of the cycle, which is really about taking good care of yourself and getting really clear on what you want and how you want to make it happen. So I hope that that makes sense. But even when discomfort pops up, remember it's just a phase.
I want like a sound effect when we say that.
Bwah, bwah, bwah. I should, yeah.
So
I wish I had a good idea of what that sound effect could be. I don't.
it's the name of the show. Um, like when they say like the name of a movie in the movie,
Oh, wait, yeah.
it's like, oh my God, they said it.
Totally.
Anyway, I completely agree with all this, and I did just this when I changed careers. So I did it really slowly and strategically. So kind of like the creative cycle, like we talked about. I figured out what I wanted to do. I planned out all the steps. So, I didn't make a spreadsheet, surprisingly,
Oh my
but
God.
I saved a bunch of money. I started my website, marketing. I planned out for what all that stuff would be. I planned to have, um, a checklist of different things that I wanted to get started as soon as I left my job so I wouldn't be like flailing when I quit. Because I feel like
Sure.
that's a mistake that a lot of people make is not preparing for what you're going to do when you actually, especially if you're going out on your own, like when you actually make that change, it's like, okay, now what? Like, are
Right.
people going to come to me? I'm not marketing, but are you going to hire me? So I think that part is super important, just knowing what you're actually going to do. I also really recommend getting to know people in your new industry. So even before you make that transition, just start making connections, following people on Instagram, like commenting on their stuff, like actually developing a relationship with people, just so you have, people you can actually confide in your industry. And joining Facebook groups was really huge for me. I found like I've said it before, like there is not a very open community of people in my industry around here that I found were really welcoming, and or anywhere that I didn't fit in anywhere. I felt so finding Facebook groups of like more like-minded people was just so much better for me.
Mm.
Um, and also listening to podcasts, getting really immersed in that new environment so you can really start strong and have good relationships and have a lot of knowledge. And especially if you're finding like industry podcasts that talk about like moving forward in your business and finding success in your industry, that can be really super helpful. So that's like my logical approach to doing it. Obviously you can use your intuition muscle throughout all of that, but I think just really getting prepared before you make that transition can make it a lot less scary.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And advice I wish I had taken 100 times because I'm I do mostly what you describe, which is just being like, you know what, I'm done. Then I'm like, wait, what the fuck? But that's okay. You're gonna be great. So that's it for questions for this round. Those were really good.
Yeah, thank you
We have
all
really
for
smart
participating in
listeners.
that. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I really
Like,
appreciate all of you for sending us those questions. And if you have any more questions, you could always DM us. You can send us an email. We'll definitely do another round of this at some point in the fall when we come back from summer camp.
absolutely agree. And I'm sure you'll have even more questions. And I can't wait to hear what you all think of summer camp and stay in touch and bring us. Oh, we just have such good stuff planned for fall. I literally can't wait.
I know it's hard
Uh,
not to tell you what it
I
is.
know.
I don't know how to keep a secret.
Literally same. I'm like, I bought you a great gift. It's this.
I do the same thing on Christmas. On Christmas and birthdays, like it's always the day before. I'm like, can I give you the present now? Can I do it? And Dan's always like,
I'm
no.
totally the same way. I just get like so excited.
Yeah.
So we're going to try not to do that, but we are going to be bringing you the 4 mini episodes for It's Just a Phase Summer Camp. They'll be starting next week. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at It's Just a Phase Pod. You can email us questions, thoughts, feedback, summer camp activities, your favorite s'more making method that you're doing at home at to it's just a phase pod at gmail.com. That's a great way to get in touch with us as well. And if you liked what you heard today or on any of the other episodes this season, we'd love for you to leave us a review on iTunes. It helps people like you find our show, and that just brings us more summer campers, and that's what we're here for right now. Camp It's Just a Phase is kicking off, and we'll see you guys, talk to you guys in the fall.
Wet, hot, cosmic summer. That's what we should have called it.
Okay, guys, pretend that that's what we call it.
Can we
Oh
get
my
Paul
god.
Rudd to join?
Oh my god. If only. Paul Rudd, if you hear this,
He's definitely
please.
listening.
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, there's nothing else to say after that.
Yeah, we
See
gotta
you at
go.
camp.
See you at camp. Bye.
Bye.